Welcome to Tutum Global's Long Read, showcasing a selection of the Tutum Global's Long Read articles, which are published online around the interest and issues for and about involuntary childless women. For the text version of this and all of our articles, please visit tutumglobal.com.
7 Ways to Make Coping with Childlessness Easier. Written by Jobi Tyson. Not being able to have children is a painful reality. For some of us, childlessness is our biggest, heaviest burden. A pilot study conducted by the National Association of Involuntary Childlessness to determine the psychological impact on female childlessness has started a wider discussion about childlessness, diagnosis, health, and wellness. As the author of the study, I interviewed dozens of women over 40 who are childless without choice or by circumstances. Only less than half of these women have found ways to cope with childlessness. For those who have, I've selected 7 tactics reported as effective coping strategies, followed by personal feedback. Number 1, accept you'll always struggle with childlessness. Quote, I've come to realize that happiness in life isn't about getting what you want. It's about figuring out how you can transform difficult, even painful situations into opportunities for growth, learning, and more love. End quote. Firstly, admitting to yourself, I cannot have children, gives you the freedom to begin the transformative process to understand where you've come from, how you got to where you are, who you are now, and where you're going. Grieving over childlessness may never completely end, but working through acceptance can become easier with time. Number 2, building better mental health. Quote, better mental and emotional health allows me to be present in life to the fullest extent possible through productive, meaningful, and strong relationships. Daily positive mindfulness activities helps me cope with childlessness and stresses that it brings. End quote. Your mental health influences how you think, feel, and behave in daily life. It also affects your ability to cope with stress, overcome challenges, build relationships, and recover from life setbacks and hardships. This is one of the most important tips for coping with childlessness. Number 3, don't struggle with childlessness in silence. Quote, as I continue to cope with the emptiness of childlessness, I've made a conscious decision to no longer secretly carry around personal pain. And I no longer suppress my hidden trauma by putting on a happy face, and no longer tell myself that my grief is an overreaction. End quote. Be good to yourself. Don't let anyone, including yourself, persuade you that your grief doesn't measure up against greater tragedies. It's important to recognize that infertility is a disease. Grief is one of the most universal human experiences, but all too often, no one talks about it. From this day on, promise yourself you will no longer suffer in silence. Number 4, readjust your perspective of self. Quote, I've always figured that becoming parents was a critical process of adult family life. Then I went through a transition from the anticipated motherhood to an unwanted status of non-motherhood. Such a transition required me to readjust my perspective of self and relationship role with my spouse. End quote. Grieve and mourn for the things that passed you by, but then look forward. Turning back the clock is not an option. It's imperative to concentrate on what you do have and can have. Number 5, remove yourself from triggering spaces. Quote, coping within the community for me is avoiding gatherings and places that cruelly remind me of my raw deal of childlessness, like baby showers. End quote. Coping in the social context, the avoidance of situations that may provide a reminder of childlessness can be a healthy coping strategy until you learn how to handle these difficult and stressful situations. Give yourself the time you need. Number 6, meditate and listen to your inner wisdom. Quote, whenever I experience emotional distress, I begin to meditate. I sit for 10 to 15 minutes uninterrupted in my meditation space at home or in my car or in a safe space while away from home and just breathe deeply. I ask for guidance from my inner guide. When I'm done meditating, I journal any wisdom that I've received during that time." End quote. Mindfulness and using deep breathing as an anchor to remain in the present moment helps improve your concentration and reduce repetitive thinking that contributes to the high levels of stress that is so prevalent in our community and society. Number 7, find your own tactics for coping with childlessness. Quote, "I set out to find new meaning by finding new purpose. I replaced my inability at having children to not wallowing in self-pity. I thought my life would be meaningless without children, but now I see I do have a purpose in life as a childless woman. My daily affirmation is reminding myself I am just as worthy as anyone else." End quote. As you continue to push forward to shape and define a life beyond childlessness, let's challenge each other to uncover new possibilities, to seek new adventures and discoveries that will enrich our understanding of the world and our place in it. Additional methods of coping include depending on internal resources such as inner strength, self-confidence, and true acceptance of fate, redirecting energy into economic ventures, being able to rely on a support structure, or trying to move on by focusing on the future. In conclusion, having a coping strategy is important in order for women to continue their purposeful lives without children.
For more Tutum Global long reads in text and a selection of audio, visit tutumglobal.com or find us on your favorite podcast platform. For more great podcasts from Tutum Global, visit tutumglobal.com/podcast.